Bro,
Brian.
I'm so excited. Today we have
Alex Ballew.
And he has a company called
Secret River Sounds.
So Alex is an incredible human being. His physical self is beautiful, as you can see if you're watching the YouTube channel. But also his mental and spiritual self is absolutely beautiful. He has created a life where he is helping others in finding their path to mindfulness as he embarks on this journey himself.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
On this episode, we're going to talk a little bit of things, talk about a couple of things, business, focus maybe, and then end it with a nice little meditation.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
If you're watching, you might see this very shiny, epic-looking gong in the background. So you get to hear, see what that sounds like. It's going to be amazing. And have just a nice little moment at the end.
I absolutely love it, and I'm so excited about it. I think we should dig in.
Let's do it, bro. I'm Jonathan Noel.
And I'm Brian Noel.
And I'm Alex Ballew.
And this is the FocusCast,
where we eliminate distractions.
Oh my gosh, and focus on increasing focus.
And live a life with intentions.
So that's what we're going to talk about with Alex today. We're going to talk about, since he is someone who is dedicated his life to different forms of mindfulness and increase in energy, we're going to learn from him today about opportunities to reduce distractions, increase focus,
and live with intentions.
And live with intention.
Yep, Alex, we've known each other our entire lives. So
man, that's
definitely
awesome.
Some epic friend history there.
I would venture to say I'm the longest relationship standing guest on this podcast so far.
I don't know how it could be longer. We'd have to go back in time.
It is true because you've been around ever since, or we've been around your family ever since you were a baby.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
So
pretty amazing.
Wow.
You know, and we've been kind of stepping out of like more hard business topics and kind of going into more of like, you know, mental stuff, psychological stuff. And I think with the sound therapy, you've helped a lot of people kind of break through some barriers. At least some of the stories I've heard.
Yeah,
have been pretty amazing. So
yeah.
Where we want to start? We want to do like a quick little rundown of the.
Yeah. So I would love to know right now, Alex. You're sitting very well. Your posture is very on point, but I want you to relax a little bit more. So.
All right.
I don't know. He looks pretty relaxed.
I feel pretty relaxed.
Good. So let's just do a quick 10-second, what do I do if I just need to do a 10-second, I'm about to go on stage, I'm about to lead a sales meeting or something like that. What's the quickest thing I can do in 10 seconds just to calm myself down?
If you've got 10 seconds and you don't have a gong right next to you, which chances are you don't, then what you need to utilize is your breath.
I think absolutely.
So how do we do that?
I was gonna say.
Let's do it.
So, I mean, really just 10 seconds, I'm about to walk through the door and do this high level meeting.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take one big deep breath.
All
I'm
right.
going to close my eyes and inhale through the nostrils. It's nice to sigh it out through the mouth. I mean, you could exhale through the nostrils as well if you like, but
I'd say for me, big inhale, hold it at the top for a couple seconds, and then come out slow.
Nice.
I do that at the beginning of every sound immersion that I lead.
Nice.
When I'm recording when I'm recording music or when we're playing live, I do that constantly. So I do the deeper breath, hold it at the top, and just kind of you got to let it out.
Breath is the tool that everybody has at every given moment to change their state very quickly.
Right.
And you don't need an instrument for that. You don't need anything for that except for working lungs.
A little bit of knowledge.
You don't need a beer and a bag of chips?
That would be counterproductive.
Yeah, we talk about how you don't learn anything important as far as like physiological things like this.
Yeah.
You know, like how to breathe. No one teaches you how to breathe growing up in the United States.
In school.
Not in the mainstream
Right.
Yeah.
No, that would
But we have a tremendous amount of power just with how we breathe.
Yeah.
truly.
Because you can tap into the parasympathetic nerve, and then you can actually have relaxation instantly happen more or less with your breathing.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, for the listeners of the podcast, Alex, who are you?
My name is Alex Ballew, and I run a company called Secret River Sounds. I am a vibrational sound therapist, and I create vibrational soundscapes to help soothe people's nervous systems.
Wow.
Very nice.
So let's break that down. What is a soundscape?
They go by a bunch of different names. The most popular is a sound bath. People call them sound
Immersions.
journeys, sound immersions, sound meditations, and they can be done a variety of ways. But a lot of times they have the same goal, right? So most of the time, people lay down. They can be done, and they can benefit you standing up. They can benefit you sitting in a chair. You're going to go the deepest if you're laying down, and so people will congregate, come together, and I use a series of instruments to take them on a vibrational sound journey to slow down their brain waves, soothe the nervous system, give them the opportunity to access the parasympathetic nervous system state. And what that does is enables them to process physically, enables them to process emotionally. People's experiences vary. Some people have memories come up. Some people see colors or visualizations. Some people have emotions bubble to the top. But at the very least, it's very, often relaxing for people. And so they leave with a deeper sense of peace, feeling more centered, feeling more grounded, feeling like they were able to let go of anything that was no longer serving them. And so they leave feeling lighter, rejuvenated, more calm, a deeper connection with self. It's a beautiful modality.
Nice.
And so, I go all over. Right now, I do a lot of yoga studios. I get contracted for retreats. I host retreats. I go to wellness centers. I get contracted for private parties for all different types of reasons. I do them indoors. I do them outdoors. I'm getting away from it, but I sometimes do private one-on-one sessions. I do different sized groups. And I use instruments like gongs and drums and singing bowls and rain sticks and rattles and shakers and didgeridoos and a crystal harp to blend all these sounds together in a way to take people on this meditative journey.
So what are some examples of, obviously you can't be too descriptive, so someone might not, recognize their story. But what are some examples of some breakthroughs that you've seen in some of these sessions?
There was a sound bath I did, and this man approached me afterwards, and he told me that his grandmother had passed the year before. And for whatever reason in his circumstance, he was not able to be there with her, which he wanted to be, but I don't know why. But he couldn't be there during that time. And he said that during the sound bath, he saw his grandmother come to him, and she was smiling. And the message that he got was, "It's okay." And I was blown away.
Yeah.
Right. I've had people tell me that they had a head injury or something, and they felt the vibration where their injury was, or on their knee or whatever, and they felt it was not necessarily comfortably. They felt the pain there vibrate and then move out of the body.
Wow.
I had somebody tell me, her children passed unexpectedly at an early age, and when I was playing the crystal harp, she saw their fingers and they were playing the harp, and so she had this touching moment that was part of her mourning process during the sound bath. That was really amazing. I mean, I've had tons of testimonials about people being able to process something emotionally or physically.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It's really common for people to cry during sound baths, and that's great. You know what I mean? And I think part of the skill that I have is really making them feel safe that that's okay.
Yeah. Setting the environment to where they can heal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Especially in a group setting,
Yeah, absolutely.
making it say, look, this is a space where vulnerability is accepted
Yeah,
and encouraged.
absolutely. Well, we're trying to heal together. So then no one's looking at anyone else like, look at this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that would never happen, but I mean, not that it wouldn't.
It wouldn't happen at one of my events.
Exactly. You make sure
Yeah.
the intentions and the things are set in place for people have the opportunity to heal.
So it's been really rewarding in that sense. And I've had people email me afterwards, like, the more I thought about it, this is what happened. And so that keeps me going, right? And gives me a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And so my mission right now is to scale this in a way that I can, increase people's exposure to this modality to the greatest extent possible, right? And so doing larger scale events so that more and more people are awakened through vibration and have the opportunity to connect with their innate ability to heal themselves through this modality. Because I'm not there to heal anybody, right? Like, I'm just playing the instruments. What they learn, if it's their first time or if they're repeat, either way, is when they come, their body can they can change their vibration simply by giving themselves the time to decompress, the permission to rest, which is hard in our culture, and just the opportunity to heal themselves. And so there's a catalyst effect with that, where if they go to the sound bath and they experience the change, then that can shift the whole way they think about wellness.
Absolutely.
Right. And then they start thinking about, like, well, do I have a biofield? And like, where does my energy end? Does it end at my body, or is it around me? Because how did that just work? And then maybe that makes all kinds of changes in their whole perspective about wellness, which is, of course, tied to focus.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about on a podcast, we just recorded it yesterday, talking about raising vibrations and things like that. And it's pretty cool that you're here the day after we recorded that, because, I read some studies around the heart pulse is, one of the highest energy pulses in our body. And it can expand, sometimes 5 to 7 feet outside of the body.
Yeah.
They can actually measure the magnetic pulse and the pulsating of the heart outside the body.
That's cool.
Which is phenomenal. And it also talked about how the heart is so strong and the pulse is so strong in the heart, it impacts every single cell in your body, every single beat.
Important to keep that heart healthy.
No doubt.
Yeah. So it's
no more industrial seed oils.
Do you know it is such an interesting challenge to avoid those?
Oh yeah. If I see anything that says AHA on it, I know that I shouldn't eat it or consume it.
Yeah, I've been successfully avoiding them for the most part. My thing about it is finding the balance between not being overly neurotic about it, because every once in a while it slips into something I eat.
Oh, for sure.
Guaranteed if you go out to eat at a restaurant. Unless they specifically advertise that they are using avocado oil or something, which doesn't happen in Georgia. Those restaurants are in the United States, probably in LA and in some cities, but like, unless they advertise it, they're using a low quality oil because it's cheap.
Well, quick side note, I was listening to a podcast and they're talking about the milkshakes. Remember we were talking about the milkshakes? Same amount of calories, but they had two groups, and they told one it was like, less calories, and they told one it was more than it actually was. And then the people who ate them, when they thought it was less calories, they felt light and fine. Mm-hmm. But then the ones where they told them there's a shitload of calories in here, they felt heavy and bogged down. So it's like, so it's important.
So even though it was the same amount of calories.
Yeah. So it's important basically when because we're healthy and we care about what we eat, but when we do let loose, you're not thinking to yourself, wow, I'm eating poison. Because then it's even worse. You're literally mentally making it even more poison.
Wow.
So it's like you just got to say, hey, I'm cheating a little bit. I'm good 98% of the time.
Yeah, that's something I've struggled with, just like giving myself that grace. There was a book I heard about. I wanted to read it. It was called The Biology of Belief. I don't even remember the author's name, but
gotta look that up.
Yeah. Or, there's so much that goes on with the mind, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And for but
yeah, that was kind of a tangent.
well, is it though? Because
We're talking about focus.
In nutrition is highly tied to focus, right? So like
Yeah.
one of the ways, so if part of what the interview is about is how I focus, a big piece of that is nutrition.
Yeah.
Right. Because, and not only what I eat, but when I eat, because I am noticeably less able to focus if I'm digesting.
Absolutely.
Right.
That's
And
totally true.
So like the timing of when I eat is something that is top of mind for me so that I can dedicate my energy where it needs to go, because a ton of energy goes to digesting food. And then I eat a really clean diet, and I eat a diet of whole foods, and I cook a lot, and I use high grade, oils and products and, mindfully sourced food and ingredients, so that I am giving my body the fuel it needs to perform at a high level. And so if you are running a business and you are eating lousy, you are at a disadvantage.
100%.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we we brought up in a couple recent episodes where there's certain people you're around that the episode was grounded. We talked about being grounded, and even the science of walking on the earth with your shoes off. And there's, again, like a lot of people are like, some of that stuff's hippie shit, but like there's actually science that's backed people who walk on the ground with their shoes off. It has significant
positive benefits.
Yeah, it feels good. I did that yesterday, and actually had a conversation with my partner about that yesterday.
Yeah. But back to, we were talking about people who you feel, and for me, the word I use when I'm around people who are extremely intentional about, what they put in their body and their positivity and things like that, the way I phrase it is I feel safe around that person. I feel like, like I guess if you're on rocky ground and you're kind of not sure where to step, and then you step on solid ground, it's that emotion. And you're one of those people.
Thank you.
So it's interesting to hear, like, when you talk to people who are extremely intentional about being positive or being mindful and just being so encouraging to people around them. That's what we talked about. Some of the attributes of positive thinking is gratitude and helping people. And of course, the opposite of that is, being rude or tearing people down or being defensive or being jealous and all those kind of things. But, so far what I've seen is the trend of people who are just radical about what you just said, which is, I need to make sure I have the energy I need to be able to deliver and support in the service that you do. And I can feel that. Like people that I know that have only met you once or twice, they're like, we use it in the words that we're familiar with in America, because people are, we're not a culture that's like, man, his energy, well, it depends on who you talk to. But
we were just saying that, like, they have chi in China, or you have prana, but we don't have really a word besides like energy.
Yeah, like he's cool, or whatever. I like him, we don't really have a word that expresses that. But anyway, and it's funny, I'm sitting in the middle of two people, and Jonathan is obviously very intentional and very chill. And we talk about this a lot since, I'm going through therapy stuff and working on some childhood trauma and all that kind of stuff. And me and Jonathan talk back and forth about how, well, he's 7 years younger than me. So he had a totally different life than I had. And so it's pretty interesting that I've always admired Jonathan for just how, again, the American word, chill, he is. So now I'm in between the chillest, realest.
The chillest, realest, illest.
Yeah, illest. But one thing that I've always, on the Strength Finders, if anyone knows what the Strength Finder is, it's one of those business personality tests, but I'm a commander and activator and self-confident. So what's interesting is, and we've talked about business and do business, but the activator is, I want to activate people to be successful, right? That's what an activator does. I will activate you in whatever you're trying to do. The commander is a leadership style, and then self-confident. So this is why I'm an annoying friend, unless you want to be successful.
Annoying if you don't want to do shit with your life.
If you come up to me with your business idea, I'm the person that's texting you every single morning to ask you if you've done that thing yet, right? So like once I latch onto someone, so I will command with confidence to activate you into your dreams.
So
Right.
if you have an idea, don't bring it up with Brian unless you are ready to be pushed.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, but back to why I appreciate you two so much, and we in the Grounded episode we brought up someone who completely impacted my life years ago named Wilbur, and then another guy named Michael Plasha who's going to come on the episode. And he's a mindfulness guy. Is working through a lot of this whatever childhood trauma or whatever, and for me, my goal through all of that is to be realigned with myself, because what I've learned is through disassociation and things like that, I've created a distant self to cope and perform. Mm-hmm. And so, what is the quote? Whoever you hang around is what you'll be in.
I'll show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Yeah. So now that intentionally putting people in my life who are not perfect, but just constantly focused on that alignment and staying grounded and staying centered and
the growth mindset too.
Yeah, and making some of these sacrifices that y'all know that once you make them, it's like, it wasn't really a sacrifice. I feel way fucking better than I ever have. But at first it feels like I'm sacrificing a coping mechanism, which is hard to let go of sometimes. To reach some of those points and those levels.
Yeah, I'd like to touch on some things I sacrificed in my life to level
Yeah,
up.
let's do it.
First of all, I quit smoking weed, right? Like, and I'm not saying that's what everybody needs to do, but for me, that was pivotal.
Wow.
Because I smoked for 13 years heavily, and I was a straight up pothead, right? And had a great time doing it.
Yeah.
Had a great time doing it.
I was there for all of that.
Literally from day one. John was the first person I ever smoked with. But
hold on, can we pause for a second? I don't want to lose your train of thought, but since we're talking about my younger brother and you, let's just tell me the first time y'all smoked pot story.
Which one was it in? In my car?
It was in your room, which is also used to be your room.
And it was the legend lives on.
It was me, you, and Clifton.
Okay.
And you guys had already been smoking, and like in 10th grade, I was like, nah, you guys are bad. And then 11th grade, and I was like, I'm turned rotten. I was like, I'm ready. and yeah, we rolled a joint or something,
and we smoked it in the room, or we went and smoked in my car.
We broke it out in the room, and that was like, I'm looking at weed, it's smelling good. I'm intrigued, and we went outside and smoked it. But yeah, so flashback to high school times for John and I. But
yeah.
But anyway, 13 years later, this is a destructive thing in my life that is holding me back. It's negatively impacting me mentally. It's negatively impacting my relationships. It's negatively impacting my financial situation. Yeah. And it's time to let it go. It's holding me back. There was no way I could have even accomplished what I've done so far, which I'm just getting started. There's no way I could have even gotten there if I didn't quit. And the gong helped me do that, right? Like, I was actually playing the gong. I was still a talent agent. I hadn't done a sound bath publicly, and I'm playing it, and I got a very clear message. You have to quit doing this. And if you don't, things are going to get exponentially worse, right? And so for anybody listening, if you are using a substance as a crutch, it will negatively impact your focus. And 6 months later, I quit drinking alcohol. And so that's my path, right? That's my choice. And
so hold on real quick. So you said before you ever did sound therapy, before you ever did any of that, you had a gong. You hit the gong.
You had your own sound bath.
You had your own self sound bath.
I had my own self sound healing.
And you got clear direction on some things you should, some distractions that you should remove.
As I was playing it.
Wow. Well, I mean,
that's awesome.
I
mean, this is real life.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the most real life. Hey, I want to start something.
Yeah.
And then you realize, okay, I have to let some things go. Plain and simple.
And no matter who you are, I think that's a natural evolution.
Yeah, and it might not be weed. It might not be alcohol. Whatever it is for you.
For some people, it may be there with an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
But
to level
they
up,
have to find a way out of that relationship.
Yeah.
Right. Another thing that could come to people through sound. I actually had somebody tell me after one of my sound experiences, she came to terms with the fact that she had to get a divorce. Something that she knew within, but she wasn't ready to face, that finally came to the surface during the sound experience. Right.
We talk about that a lot. I mean, one of the main killers outside of the things we do to our own bodies is toxic relationships. And so many people So many people are with toxic friends or toxic spouse or whatever, and for so many reasons. But yeah, it's really hard to start a business or move to that next phase in life, whatever you're trying to accomplish, if you've got someone that's there just beating you down.
So
yeah,
true.
whether it's a platonic friendship or a romantic partner, they have to want to see you win, and they have to give you the space to do it.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
They have to give you the space.
If there's anyone in your life who doesn't want to see you win, then it's like,
Dude. Yeah.
it's like maybe you see him once a year, passingly, but you're not really trying to hang out with that person.
Well, we're all at the place at this point, right, where we can sniff that out really easily, right?
Yes.
Like even on a subtle level.
Oh, yeah.
If you have just a very subtle amount of jealousy, I know it.
Yeah.
If you have just a subtle amount of I want to see you thrive, but not more than me, I know it instantly.
Yeah.
And I don't tolerate it, right? And there's no reason, because there's tons of people, in my opinion, out there that want to see you win.
Hell
And
yeah.
they're secure, and they're inspired, and they're inspiring. And
Yeah, because the ultimate attitude is when my friends win, we all win. Like, let's go.
it's
you
so
know?
obvious, right?
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Yeah,
it is
but,
really weird.
I mean, that goes back to,
Their
whatever's,
trauma,
yeah.
and their insecurities and stuff they
Right.
obviously need to work on. But what I found is, and I'm no therapist or psychologist or anything, so this is purely my opinion and observation, but what's holding that toxic person back from hitting a wall and seeking true help is your codependent relationship with them. So sometimes, even though it feels really hard to leave that relationship, it's the best thing for you, and a lot of times the best thing for that person, unless they're just a fucking psychopath.
If one person feels the need to leave, then it is truly best for both.
Yes.
Because even if the other person doesn't
'Cause
want to
they're not
leave,
home.
they shouldn't want to be in a relationship with somebody who wants to leave.
Yeah.
You can't. Four things that really helped me get me where I'm at today, that are making a big difference in my life, just to kind of cap this conversation about, I talked about smoking weed. For me, I quit smoking marijuana, right? That was number one. That was the first domino that fell, right? Shortly after that, I quit drinking alcohol, right? Game changer.
I want to talk about that when you come back. I want to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so funny. It's been years. I don't miss it.
Yeah.
I don't miss it at all. And that's the hump you get over, because in your mind you think you will. Time goes on, you don't. 3, I quit watching pornography, right?
Nice.
Game changer. Anybody who's listening, if you're watching porn, it sucks. It's the worst. It's depriving you of your life force energy. It's a terrible crutch. And my heart goes out to anybody, because I know how addictive it is, especially for men, but women too, right? Game changer.
That's a lot of energy spent.
Oh my gosh, it's the worst. I wish it didn't exist, And I got exposed when I was a kid, so it got ingrained. And kids in America today, with the speed of the internet now, they get exposed really young.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a terrible thing. I'm glad I don't watch it anymore.
We should do an episode on that.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
And then 4, therapy, right? Because then I can start to understand some of my stuff that happened in childhood with professional guidance, and how that manifests in my relationships today with friends, with my family, with my partner. And then I can get my romantic life in a healthy way, right? Which gives me space to thrive both in my personal life and in my business. So those were 4 pillars for me in my journey.
Wow.
Hell yeah. Love it.
Yeah,
amazing.
It's interesting because we talked about alcohol. The first episode we did on alcohol when we first started the podcast was alcohol is good and bad, and
it's kind of a neutral message.
Yeah, it was a neutral message, and then Jonathan's actually been talking about not drinking as much and really cutting it out, and it was funny because I told him, I said, in thinking about it, I honestly got scared. Mm-hmm. And I talked to my therapist about that, and we were talking through. So for me, she's like, I'm not an addiction therapist. I can recommend an addiction therapist. She said, but that's the symptom to the problem. And what we and I articulated after doing my notes after a couple rounds of therapy was, so I have the monkey mind, and what I learned in disassociation, you distance your thinking self from your emotional self. And that's a form of coping because your brain literally shuts down the emotional self.
Yeah.
And there's these roles. We talked about this. So the manager role in my disassociated self is loud and obnoxious, never shuts up. Like me and Jonathan have talked about this all the time. Like I'll try to go to bed at 10 and I'll lay in bed till 3 and my brain is literally on fire, like on fire. And so I don't really get drunk. I don't think anyone has seen me drunk, but I drink, or I used to, like 3 weeks ago and before, drink every day. You know, a couple beers a day. And then I could go pound, because we have a high tolerance in our family, I could go pound 5 cocktails and a couple beers. But what I learned in the habits that I now see is when I drink, the monkey brain's voice in my head is quieter and more muted because I'm so fucking tired. So while we have a podcast around focus, while I'm trying to increase focus, what I learned, this is crazy. What I learned is when I started drinking mushroom coffee instead of regular coffee, when I started mountain biking and riding the Peloton every single day, when I started doing meditation and started incorporating these practices to increase focus, the monkey mind and the manager in my brain got so loud. And so when I was talking to my therapist about this, it's like, well, me staying up till 2, 4 nights in a row, getting up at 5, drinking alcohol every day, pounding a bag of chips before I go to bed is my coping mechanism to calm the loud monkey mind. So what I'm super excited about, and again, this is like, me and Jonathan talk about this a lot. If you wake up today, hear those 4 pillars and say, I'm going to quit drinking, but all you do is just sit there all day and go, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to drink. You'll just drive yourself. And then you go drink, and then you feel bad, and there's shame, then there's the addiction, same cycle. But so for me, and this is very different for every human being. So for me personally, what I'm super excited about is as we do EMDR therapy and I realign myself from this disassociated self, I won't need the alcohol.
Yeah,
I won't need it.
You won't, Brian.
And I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, congrats on even getting to the point where you're at right now talking in this chair.
Yeah.
I'd like to touch on that because when I was coming to terms with, okay, this isn't working, I felt scared too.
Yeah.
And what I felt like was I was going to lose my identity. I said, what am I going to do for fun? What am I going to do at parties? What am I going to do on dates? What am I going to do with the boys on the weekend? And this illusion that is created is you're going to lose some piece of yourself. But the cool thing that happens, and the reality of it is once you stop or once you start going in that direction, you actually become closer to your most authentic self.
Most definitely.
It for me, I was scared that I was going to like lose some piece of me or some part of my personality. And it was truly the opposite.
It was you lost the piece you needed to lose. The one that was drinking.
I lost, dude. And what you get duped growing up in this culture. It's a $1 billion industry.
Yeah.
They're constantly programming that it's associated with success. It's associated with romance. This is what you do when you're happy. This is what you do when you're sad. This is what you do when you're celebrating. Yeah, this is what you do when you're having a hard time.
Every occasion.
Like, as far as they're concerned, this is what they want you to do every day. And no matter how much you're drinking, like even if it's just a beer or two, that's still slow grade inflammation and anxiety, right? Like when you take that first sip and you're like, you're not saying because it's so good. You're saying because you're finally relieving the itch to get it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to having a sharp, focused mind, and if you want to excel to the next level, for me, in my journey, excluding that from my lifestyle has been huge. And here I am, I think it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years, and there's not a part of me that craves it or is like, oh man, life was better back then. Like my life is purely just better now without it.
So we talk about this on how in so many episodes now that haven't been released, but or they're in the queue. But it's when you're trying to stop doing these things, it's not like Brian said, you don't just sit on the couch with ice cream in the freezer and say, I'm not gonna eat ice cream, I'm not gonna eat ice cream. The point is to do things in your life that make you feel so good you don't want it.
Right.
Like it's so hard to just stop habits when it's like sitting right there in your face. The habit is incorporating things that make you feel so good you don't care anymore.
Right. And also when you get used to that status of feeling really good, you realize how bad these other things make you feel.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I quit eating ice cream mostly. I mean, I maybe on a once in a blue moon, but I don't buy ice cream anymore.
Blue moon?
Yeah.
Do you know
Bluebell?
Bluebell's
Once in
got
a Bluebell?
Bluebell's terrible. I used to love it when we lived together. Dude,
High fructose corn
It's
syrup.
got high fructose corn syrup in it. It's got soybean oil in it. Like, ice cream is trash, dude.
What happened to milk and cream and
If you made it, I mean, yeah. If you make
homemade ice cream, okay.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so back to the drinking though. I'm drinking way less than I ever have.
Yeah.
And I loved drinking. I probably got drunk for the first time. I think I was like, I remember it, but I don't remember how old I was. I think I was like 14.
I was 17 when I first tried.
So anyway, yeah. But
Which was also with you.
oh, for sure, of course, absolutely. But
Always see the positive influence was this relationship.
I was there when Alex lost his virginity.
Oh, great.
You were
I'm glad
there?
that's on this podcast.
How close?
Same house.
Wait a minute. First time smoking weed, first time drinking, and losing virginity?
I wasn't watching.
Well, I didn't expect that, but still,
Should've
that's yeah, should have been.
You would have had a great, thrilling 10 seconds.
But
Oh man.
that's what happens when you've known someone your whole life.
Yeah, you go through a lot of stages.
But so drinking for me now has changed. I
Yeah.
mean, when you're at the higher mental clarity, the higher states of just existing,
Yeah.
you really feel how much alcohol brings you down.
Yeah.
So when you're not feeling great, obviously you don't notice because it's probably maybe even bringing you up a little bit.
Yeah.
But when you're way the fuck up here, not saying like I'm up here like I'm better, but I'm saying like my overall mental focus and how I feel like my existence and I'm excited about life and vitality and fucking gratitude.
Yeah.
And when you drink, then you feel it pull you down big time. You're like, fuck, dude, this is not worth it.
There's no, looking back on it, there's no amount of fun I had drinking that was ever worth the hangover, right?
Yeah.
I had to learn how to have a blast without it, and it took a little practice.
Yeah, no,
Took a little practice.
I'm not saying it's easy. It's not about, like you said, it's going to be hard to just quit drinking if you enjoy it. It's more about incorporating habits in your life that make you feel so good you don't want it.
Yeah, for sure. I also want to be really clear, just since we're talking about this, anybody who doesn't know me that's listening, it's not a judgment. It's not.
Yeah.
No, we don't. We don't.
you know.
We say that every time on here. Like,
Yeah.
we're not.
This is all about where you're at, and I naturally am around just a lot of entrepreneurs and founders and things like that, just based on my phase of life. So they're trying to accomplish something, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is, they're trying to accomplish something. And so really for us, all these conversations are geared towards, introspective work and looking at opportunities to remove distractions, whether that's porn, whether that's alcohol, whether that's weed, whether that's a toxic relationship, whether that's some internal deep trauma that you need to work through with a therapist, whatever it is, understand that, start working through that. So then, like Jonathan said, we can make space for the things that make us feel great, and allow us to accomplish our dreams, right?
Yeah, and in that vein, I think we should talk about electronics for a second. So years ago, I read this really great book called The Power of Off, and phenomenal.
title.
It's phenomenal. It's really a short, quick, easy read, and just had a lot of aha moments at that stage in my life. But for anybody listening, and for you guys, just for anybody, I highly encourage people to quit sleeping with their cell phone in their bedroom. For the love of God, don't do it. Just get an old school alarm clock. I got one that's silent, so it doesn't go tick, 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 because that would drive me nuts. I did that at first, and I was like, this alarm clock's not going to work. So I got one. It's battery powered. The batteries last for years. It sits on my desk. That's what wakes me up. So my phone is on the other side of the house. That way, I can allow myself to get some sunlight before I look at it, and I can allow myself to be awake before instantly looking at my phone. You know what I mean? I don't want to see the blue light right away. I don't want to see the temptation of email or,
That's a big one.
or looking at the weather or looking at Instagram or any of these things. And it just gives me that extra separation. When I first took my phone out of my room at night, it was like a cord got cut. And if you sleep with your cell phone in a different part of the house and not in your room, you're more likely to read a book instead of scroll. And then a Faraday bag. You've got one, John. I actually just lost mine, so I'm about to buy another.
What is that?
Well, I have two.
Oh, great. Yeah. I mean, so a Faraday bag can be for any size electronic. I mean, I got one for my phone. It's basically, it cuts off any EMF radiation from the device. It cuts off the service to the device. My primary reason for getting it is because when I slid the thing in my pocket, it made my hip hurt.
Yeah, I feel that too.
Yeah, it's very, very noticeable. And I was like, I'm tired of my hip aching. And I would feel like tightness there. So I got that for that. But then I also noticed when my phone is in this, I'm less likely to look at it because there's that one extra barrier. So when I, in the past, would just mindlessly reach for it, I'm like, oh, it's in the Faraday bag. I'm noticing that. I'm going to take a little bit more time away from it. Because, I mean, while that tool is necessary to run a business or really operate in this society, it's necessary, right? Like, I'm not demonizing it. I'm just saying there's a time for it, and there's a time where it can be useful, and there's a time where it can be a distraction. And a Faraday bag is another way to limit that distraction. So, I just don't really bring electronics into the bedroom, especially once the sun's gone down.
Yep.
I'm not saying I'm perfect with it, right? But like, if there's anything that I could get across around electronics is to stop using it as an alarm clock.
I have noticed that every time I call you, it goes to voicemail and you call me back.
Yeah, my phone is always on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah.
Unless I'm waiting on a very specific thing.
Yeah.
It's just default. It's on Do Not Disturb. I have no notifications on my phone except for calls and texts, and I don't hear it ring or make a sound. I don't want my phone to make a sound. It's already addicting enough.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't need Instagram notifications. I don't need it constantly like spiking my dopamine every time I get that text sound. I make that thing silent. I want to seal those things away and get them away from me as often as I can. And I look at them every day regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I don't need to like, they're designed to addict you. So like, you have to turn some of those settings in a way that it's minimal.
We talked on one podcast that the phone notification triggers the same thing in the brain as like a bear attack.
Interesting.
The alertness and awareness.
Alert, like almost like fight or flight. Yeah. That
I mean,
sense.
when I take like a field day, like yesterday I went hiking and I did a cold plunge, and Alexa and I went to the Dawson County WMA, and it was great. And I didn't look at my phone for hours. And when I realized it was time to look at it again, and I was like, like, what am I going to have to deal with? Which, I mean, there's a place for that, right? Like, it's a great tool. It's a great tool.
Yeah,
it's
it's amazing.
Finding the balance with it.
It's amazing and can be amazingly destructive, but it can be an amazing tool as well. It's like, that's what it is. It's something you have to take control of.
Well, here's what I'm noticing about, and Jonathan has a lot of these conversations with me, and but here's what I'm noticing about you two and people that I've met who, and these crazy gurus that you see on Instagram, the guy who runs like 200 miles.
David Goggins.
Yeah. But like so many of us are in America in an inflamed state of poor health.
Yeah.
Our bodies are inflamed. Our brains are inflamed. We're tired. We're fatigued. We're cloudy. And, something as, serious as, changing our diet, completely. I mean, like people that are like really need to change diet. But it's funny hearing from you guys, like as you start peeling these things away, your body becomes more aware. And things like wearing your cell phone on your hip, you can feel that hip pain. Where if someone who's, drinking and smoking and,
they have the inflammation.
They have so
already.
much inflammation that they don't even feel it. And so for me, it's like how many of us
are not feeling things,
are literally just so numb.
Yeah, I feel the hip pain big time. I hate having my phone in my pocket.
Yeah.
And when I get home, I put my phone, I connect to the Wi-Fi. I don't know if this is better like frequency or whatever you want to call it, but I put it on airplane mode and do everything through Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I don't use 5G when I'm at home. And then I use the Faraday bag when I sleep.
Yeah.
I still use the alarm on the phone, but I put it in the Faraday bag. I try and put it in like 30 minutes before bed.
Yeah.
And then have 30 minutes of no light or super low light with the salt lamp. And that can get the melatonin going. But yeah, I'm not perfect either. But
here's what everybody should know. You were designed to feel great.
Yeah.
You were designed to move and be happy and experience joy and a whole range of emotions. But you're designed to feel them, whatever they are. Yeah. You're designed to be fit. You're designed to be able to accomplish a lot. You're designed to be able to move heavy weights. You are designed to be in touch with your body, your emotional state, your spiritual experience. So if you don't feel like that, and you're listening and everything I just said, you're like, well, I don't really feel tapped into that, then it's probably because of lifestyle, right? Like, and so
there's nothing wrong with that. No one teaches you that.
no,
And like we all had to learn this one little bit at a time.
well, and
it took fucking years.
And there's tons of money being spent to keep you in that place.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So like,
but
our bodies are so amazing. All we have to do is get out of the way, change some lifestyle things, and you really don't have to do a lot, and you can feel amazing.
I mean, the basics that I think that anybody could start with is going on a walk.
Yeah.
One walk a day.
I don't go to the gym. People always, when I say exercise, people probably think, "Oh, dude, I'm not going to the gym." I'm not going to the gym either. I don't want to go to the gym ever in my life. I don't give a shit about the gym.
Like my man Sean Stevenson says. That's like a phrase I say to Alexa. I'm like my man Sean Stevenson says. I love that podcast.
Great, yeah, the Model Health Show.
Yeah, well, his whole point that I believe is that the best exercise for you is the one you're gonna do.
Exactly.
So if you don't want to lift weights at a gym, that's cool.
Yeah.
But if you can get into paddleboarding, go.
That's what I'm saying.
If you're not into yoga, okay,
that's fine.
Then but you like hiking, or you want to play hockey, or just whatever it is, like whatever it is that's going to be not sedentary life for you is the kind of exercise you should get.
For me, it's mountain biking.
Yeah.
Racquetball, hikes. But if you're not going to do anything, at least walk.
At least.
Walking's amazing for you anyway.
At least, right? And then, because then you can, I think what is overwhelming for people is they're like, I've got to change everything immediately and turn my whole life around. When it's like, no, just one step at a time. Just maybe step one for you is you're going to be a little bit more mindful about how much water you intake, or add that one walk. Yeah. And then the next month you're like, actually, I think I'm going to quit eating this and substitute it for this. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you definitely have to fill like whether you're letting go of alcohol or letting go of junk food or letting go of whatever it is that you feel like is no longer serving you. It's not just like, okay, that's blank now. You substitute for something better.
Yeah, we talked about how I'm finishing the book, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah.
Amazing, phenomenal. And it just talks about how, every piece of the body remembers what happens to it, right? Memory is not just stored in the brain. Memory is stored in our skin and our organs all over our body. There's each cell has the capacity to remember. And if you are in this low state and you eat like crap and you got a terrible job and you're miserable, and maybe you have a toxic relationship, maybe you had some trauma, your body is so used to coping. It's so used to chips and donuts and alcohol and, whatever it is for you. So the second you even mentally start saying, I need to give that up, your entire body is like, no, right? Totally. Because there's addiction involved in those spikes that food.
Yeah, your subconscious habits.
Well, in food
in
now,
body.
Processed food is designed to be addictive. It's designed to release chemicals in your brain that make you feel good for a second. Yeah. And so when you're at such a low state, and that's what we talked about in a recent podcast, the Vibration podcast, if you're in such a low state, bad things even pull you up for a minute. But that's the problem, is they constantly keep you in that state, which is, as we would say, it's designed that way. So again, I love what you're saying, right? And this has definitely been my natural evolution. So when I was dealing with quite a bit of stress coming out of COVID, with job situations and things like that, I took a walk, 2-3 walks a day sometimes. And I read this in The Body Keeps a Score, and one of the mental exercises, so that helps you physically, but mentally, walk through and start describing the trees to the best of your ability, right? To really help with that mental presentness. Is that a word? Presence. But walk through and start describing the trees and describe the leaves and pick them up and feel them and touch them.
So you're hyper in the moment.
Yeah. So something as simple as 30 minutes a day can be the most simple. A walk and touching and describing out loud and breathing can be one of the most radical things that you've done for your body in years.
Which is why we keep talking about you're not going to be able to stop doing these things by sitting on the couch and saying to yourself, I'm going to stop eating like this.
Yeah.
It's like you got to start with the good habits,
Yeah.
however small.
Yeah. And I mean, also like we shouldn't discount how hard it is to change habits, and we should emphasize the resources that exist, for some people. Hopefully, we want these resources to exist for everybody, but is getting professional help.
Yeah.
Right? Like I worked with a psychotherapist when I was quitting smoking because I needed help. Help. That addiction was so strong for me. Some of the other ones I was able to get, but there's no shame in that. No. Or if there is, we would like to work in a direction to undo that. Right?
We talk about coaches. People get a coach for their physical bodies.
You hire a CPA to do your fucking taxes.
But all of a sudden, when you get help for there's a stigma against getting help for mental things. It's ridiculous.
It's so weird.
Talking about getting help and focus in business and taking it back to Secret River, one thing that I have done is I hired a bookkeeper, I hired a coach, I hired a accountant, and I hired an assistant.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm making a ton of money yet with what I'm doing, but I had to get those systems in place to start to focus on what matters, which is steering the ship, right? Because if I'm wasting my time trying to make a flyer when I could outsource that, or if I'm trying to categorize every expense and I could outsource that, all of these, when I bump into something where I'm like, this isn't my strength, this is too much time going to that, I hire somebody for that, and that helps me stay focused. You know what I mean?
Well, it's really interesting, again, going back to, because I've talked to so many people who are starting a business or want to start a business in my life. So I'm 40. And, the first entrepreneurial endeavor I had was me and a friend started a studio in middle school. So I've just naturally been around a lot of people who are trying to start stuff. But in connection to the mental state and the physical and spiritual state and just entrepreneurialism, if, just like you said, you went through the same systems as you do in how you feel, right? Like I was wearing my phone. I felt it. So I did this instead. I was doing this business practice. I realized it was taking too much energy or taking too much time, so I needed to outsource that, right? If we look at that, there's very similar patterns there. Mm-hmm. So again, but if you look at, if you are in a low state or if you're filled with inflammation or, whatever, and then instead of saying, I need to delegate this, you're like, oh, I got to figure this out, and oh, you're such an idiot, and oh, you can't accomplish this, or you don't have enough money, or fear, and all that kind of stuff, to where then you just quit.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that happens to so many people. They either try it all, work themselves to death, and then quit, or they just quit, right? So again, but what's really interesting in the parallels here is we talk about the mental state and the focus state and the ability to, work through some of these decision-making skills. Having a clear mind to make those decisions.
And it's a lot easier.
Is a lot easier.
When you have a clear mind.
When you have a clear mind.
Sure. Yeah, fear is the ultimate business killer, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I've had to work through a lot of that. Worth, imposter syndrome, all of these things.
Oh, yeah.
What's been really great for helping me work through that is my mentors. So I have, I have a variety of mentors. To date, I have two very key mentors. Alex Ballew, who's been on this show, and Richard Tadeguayo, who is an actor and a director and an overall just wizard of awesomeness.
Yeah, cool
name
awesome
too.
guy. I met him once.
He's incredible. He's incredible, and he both of those guys have been mentors in business, but also in navigating the emotional scariness of doing something that's not a mainstream 9-to-5.
Yeah.
Right. Because there's a lot of fear and things about trust and things with relationships and yeah. I mean, there have been a lot of times where I was scared to take the next step. And also, I think a thing that can be real for people is being scared of being successful.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to succeed because then I won't be what I'm used to.
Yeah, it's a new territory.
Right.
It's the unknown.
I gotta step out of what I'm used to. And if what I'm used to is making a certain amount of money or having a certain amount of freedom or having a certain amount of creative ability or lack thereof, that can be scary, right?
Most definitely.
So a lot of people, real quick, you knew you needed mentors. What was the conversation? How did you engage that true mentor relationship? Because a lot of people need mentors and they don't know how to ask.
You know what? I'm such a direct person. At this stage in my life, I straight up say, hey, will you be my mentor? I literally, I know so many Alexes, which is hilarious. The other day, I connected with an actor I used to represent. He's an actor, but he's also a great cinematographer and just an awesome person. And he's had a lot of business experience. And I just straight up said, hey man, I'm looking for some mentorship. Is that something you would be interested in as, in addition to our friendship? Right. And it's, I think one thing that's key with me, because I have different mentors, right? Like I'm about to do this gong therapy training with Matab Benton. That is a gong master professional mentorship relationship. You know what I mean? That is tied with business. And so there's a different level of distance with that. And, compared to Alex or Richard, where it's very much intertwined with a friendship.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, mentors are key. I truly do not know where I would be without mine.
How often do you talk to them?
Well, it just depends. It's funny now because my business is escalating and I'm truly busier. But at least once a month, at least. I mean, I used to talk to Richard and Alex every week, and now it's me who doesn't have as much time. Richard got a job. He was doing all freelance stuff, and now he's got a job that's taking up some more of his time too. But I make a point to get lunch with them. I make a point to see them. How
do you manage that time? Do you show up with questions and they just show up? And how do you manage that relationship?
Some of it just flows so naturally, just based on the dynamic, right?
Especially with Alex Stadler.
Especially with him, but same with Richard, really. I mean, there's times where I'm like, hey, this is on my heart. This is on my mind. What's your opinion? And there's other times where, because I am open, and they know that I am ready to receive. They know that I'm ready to hear things that I may not necessarily want to hear or like, but I'm not going to shut them down. Right. And here's a perfect example. One time I was filming a short branded documentary for Secret River. And I started to realize towards the end of the process, when we're almost done editing, that the story wasn't quite as solid as I wanted it to be. First of all, the story not being what I wanted it to be, I didn't blame the guy who helped me do it. I blamed myself because it was ultimately my fault. Secondly, when I went to cancel with him, and which was a bummer, and he poured his heart into it, and it was a lot of it was great, but it wasn't just quite what I needed. And I emailed him and I said, hey man, I'm not feeling like the story is what I want it to be. I think we need to essentially scrap this project. And I showed that to Richard, and Richard's like, okay, well, my first question is, how come you didn't call him? And there's a lot of things I could have said. I could have said, look, I'm busy. It's easier to articulate myself with an email. It took some of the pressure off. But instead of finding all the excuses, I said, wow, you're right.
Yeah, why didn't I call him?
And so that makes his job as my mentor, his role, not his job, his choice, right? Like his role as a mentor easier because I allow myself
the feedback.
I let my guard down, and I know I have blind spots. And I don't take it as an insult. I don't take it as criticism, because I know their intention is to help me win, because they know my intention is to help people thrive.
Yeah.
That's another thing, right? Like, so many doors open for me because people want to help me, because they know that my intention is to help people. They know that I am trying to do something that is for the ultimate good of all. And they sense that authenticity, and they sense that passion, and it makes them want to help me. Because my purpose is one of love, ultimately.
Yeah.
Well, and I would say the reason I would do whatever you wanted me to do is because just how genuine you are, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. So I'm working on an overview packet of what I'm trying to do. I know so there's 4 steps, and this is going to tie to you. There's 4 steps of what I need for the next level. And that is larger gongs, a PA system to amplify it, a vehicle to transport them, and the clients who want me, right? And then the next step after that, what I'm really trying to turn this into, I don't want to continue to go around doing these things alone, right? I am trying to create an overall wellness, high vibration, healing extravaganza. And it doesn't have to be our performance. Like, it can be entertaining, but the top priority is still healing, right? And I can't do that alone. And I want to do that on a global scale. And I have been waiting to get ready for your level of consulting, because I know you tried to do that with Arlo when Zach and I were there, which I appreciate. And when I stopped by your house and showed you the commercial and the promo video, which by the way were shot by Richard, I asked you, remember when I asked you, I said, hey, I'm working on this thing. When I'm ready to show it to you, will you help me? I just asked. And you said, and I remember you said, I'll do anything I can to help you, right? This podcast is part of that. And pretty soon, because I'm going to be done with it soon, I'm going to call you and I'm going to say, hey, can I just take a few hours of your time? I want to sit down. I want to show you this. I'll show it to you in advance so you can have it and be like, here's what I'm trying to do. It's not like, oh, I don't have the money, so I can't. Or, oh, I'm not worthy, so I can't. It's just like, here's the gap. I'm trying to figure it out. What do you think? And I want you to be my mentor because I know you're a boss. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, I appreciate
Brian
that.
doesn't fuck around.
And what I'll say is, for anyone listening and they want to accomplish something, I think listening to, what's just been said, right? Like being intentional, having a clear path, knowing when the time is right.
Exactly.
And then just being extremely forward and honest with people with what you need. And I worked with nonprofits for 5 years, and it was all around raising money because that's what they do. And I remember the first time I had to raise money was when we adopted Dex. And it was one of those situations where we needed like 30 grand in like a couple of weeks.
Wow.
To adopt him. And some people may be like, it costs that much money to adopt a kid? Whatever, longer story. But I remember it was my first time after coaching people to raise money for years to where I specifically had to ask. And I really enjoyed it.
I think you have to be, I think if you can not be afraid of what the answer is, that directness is best, right? Like, so you have to be prepared for people to be like, I don't have time for this, or no, or I'm not going to give you money, or I can't be your mentor, or that doesn't actually feel like an alignment, but how about this? You know what I mean? Because if you beat around the bush, people are going to sniff it out anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So if I wanted your help and I sent passive aggressive signals hoping that you would just offer it, right?
Some high school,
right. So, I could come to you and say, Brian, will you sit down and look at this overview packet? I'd love your ideas and your thoughts. And also you can count on me not to use you as a crutch, right? Because I'm out there to get it too, right? That's why high caliber mentors want to mentor me, because they see my potential as well. You know what I mean? They know I'm actually gonna
do the things.
You gotta believe in your person if you're gonna mentor them, right?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I was listening to a podcast, and the whole podcast was about mentors, getting mentors, and high power mentors. But what you just said is phenomenal, and that's that mentors that they don't necessarily need to spend time with you. Maybe they're financially secure, or they're busy usually, but they love to see people win. Healthy, successful people
love
seeing people win. And you're exactly right. If they get a chance to just, hey, try this, do this, move here, and then that person does that with all of their effort and they win, that's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to pass that torch forward. I can't wait to mentor people. And a lot of times I think it comes effortlessly to them. Yeah. Because, you're like down on the ground. They're like, well, I'm up in this helicopter, right? Like I've seen this, right? Like here's an example. I used to be a talent agent, right? I repped actors and got them auditions for commercials and promo videos and voiceover and the like, right? So now if a new actor who moves to this market has questions and they want to ask me about what they need to do to get the right headshots, or what acting class they should take, or how to get an agent, or how to do their voiceover demo, for me, it is so effortless and easy to tell them that advice. It doesn't actually take much of my energy to give that to them, but for them, that's huge.
Yeah.
Right? Richard is a marketing consultant expert. Right. Yeah. If I'm like, hey, I'm struggling with this part of my branding, or this part of my image, or this part of my message, it's like he just knows it, right?
Right. You could spend, an extra 10 hours a week doing research, killing yourself, and then for an answer that would take you multiple iterations of going through different versions, or you can ask Richard. And he can tell you in 15 minutes.
And there's different ways to get mentorship, right? And some of it, I have a soul contract with those guys. There's other people in the sound sphere that I reach out to that don't know me, and I offer to pay them. I called this guy, Guy
Yeah.
Douglas. He does these huge sound baths out in San Francisco, and he goes, he's through California. He does a lot of stuff between Los Angeles and San Francisco. This guy's doing regular sound baths for massive groups. Before COVID hit, he was doing 1,400 people in this church every month.
Wow.
Right? That's a big sound bath. And I reached out to him, and I showed him my videos, and I said, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. I appreciate the work you're doing. Can I talk to you? And before he even replied, I said, I'd love to pay you for your time.
Yes.
Yeah, and I didn't pay him that much, but I paid him enough, for an hour phone call. And he was so cool and laid back. You guys, this guy was the sweetest guy. And I hope to see him again and meet him in person one day, but his phone call meant so much to me. And so like what I want when it comes to like people who are doing this work is I want people who are doing what I want to be doing.
Yes.
Right. And that's something that, like you can't even put a value on it. So like I will gladly pay for that phone call and take notes while I do it. And that's a mentor too. It's a different kind.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'm 40, and the next 10 years is I've always had mentors, and always try to surround myself around smart people, but I want to be even more intentional. I want a spiritual mentor, I want a mental mentor, I want a physical mentor, I want a business mentor, I want content. Since, YouTube and the algorithms and the science behind all this stuff and how it's ever evolving, I want a group of people or people I can pay or a team that can help me, understand these iterations in technology and make sure we're following that from a content standpoint. I want to build that base, whether it's employees, whether it's people who are well done with their career, it doesn't matter, but I want to build the power team in my 40s.
Yeah. But look at it as like a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
So each one of those pillars you just mentioned is one of the puzzle pieces. And when you put the puzzle together, the image is you thriving. In life,
Yeah.
right. So like your therapist is one puzzle piece. Your massage therapist is one puzzle piece. Your friendships, that's a puzzle piece. Your connection with your brother, that's one puzzle piece.
Yes.
Your mentor when it comes to having this podcast thrive is one puzzle piece. Same thing with wellness, right? Like, okay, if the picture is my vitality, longevity, and health and happiness, then my acupuncturist, my massage therapist, my organ massage therapist, my sound therapist, the person I hike and camp with.
Did you say organ massage therapist?
Yeah, I
What
know a
is that?
few. Well, visceral organ massage therapist, like a lot of times people are going and maybe you're used to like getting my muscles rubbed, right? Like I had a woman massage the connection between my stomach and my intestine for 20 minutes once. You talked about rating the body keeps the score. There's a guy named Dr. Cal Sellers. He is a chiropractor, but this man is a true doctor. He puts hands on you, he heals you. Now, he heals you like a bulldozer, and it's intense. But he is extremely effective. He helps people with infertility. I mean, this guy dislodged my abdomen from my diaphragm, right? Well, you mentioned you're reading The Body Keeps the Score. He has this gift where he can see where chi's flowing or where it's not. And he's like, I don't know what's going on with your kidneys, but they're not producing chi like they should, and they don't feel like they should. And he does this technique. It's hard to describe here in this chair, but
Where is he at?
he lives in Wyoming, but he studied in Georgia, and he comes to Georgia like once a quarter. He's hard to get in with. I could connect you with him. He's changed my life, and once again expanded my ability to see what healing can be and mean. But
Yes, please.
he was using his knuckles to heal my kidneys. And like, I'm like, okay, this is intense, but I'm feeling it. I'm laying there. I'm like very emotionally like neutral. Like, okay, this is good. I'm glad I'm here. And he pressed one part of my upper left kidney, and I burst into a deep weep because my kidney, in my particular case, my upper left kidney happened to be where I stored some childhood trauma. So it'll attach to a specific organ. You know what I mean? And then disease can manifest there.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And so I was able to work something out emotionally through physical contact of his knuckle massaging my kidney.
Wow.
And what's cool about sound therapy is sound can work on that too.
Yeah.
In a very subtle way. And we can get all those organs to harmonize with each other. And we can get everything on a cellular level to harmonize with each other so that your body and your aura and your biofield is harmonized and singing in tune. And you can call that a number of things. You can call that being in alignment. That's a cool thing about sound.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Yeah. I feel like I need just a few seconds to
Absorb.
absorb.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing what the body can hold, which is why you start to realize, man, I have to work through this because it will manifest into probably disease.
Yeah.
I mean, you hold the trauma, and there's parts in your body that is just holding it for decades, and it's not good.
That's a good opportunity to talk about breath work too. So my partner Alexa, she's a breath work teacher, and just witnessing so we do collaborative events sometimes. Like a lot of my events are standalone sound baths, but I'm working more and more with a group of different breath work instructors. But my favorite to work with is her. She's excellent at it. And the cathartic release that people get during that breath work, that could unlock some trauma that's stuck in your lung or your heart or wherever it is, and peel back those layers so you can connect with yourself on a deeper level, right? And that's accessible to everybody. And it doesn't take a drug, and it doesn't take a surgery. I mean, and I want to be clear, there's a place for those things.
Yeah. Right.
Definitely. Like,
Right.
If you're
including me,
appendix
like I've
burst.
had surgeries and needed pharmaceutical drugs and stuff. But just when it talks about like storing trauma in the body and holistic ways to release it, sound is awesome. I think it's really cool that breath work is really taking off. And I'm not just talking about pranayama, like with yoga all through the nose. I'm talking about, it's a big umbrella term, right? Like breath work can be almost as umbrella as like fitness. There's a zillion ways to get there, right? And there's yoga lineages that use it, and just all kinds of stuff. But I just get excited about all the cool, holistic, natural, accessible ways we have to heal ourselves. And I want to see our society move in a direction of more and more people who are excited about that too. And they're there, and they're ready for it, and they're looking for it, and they're looking for people like me who put these together for them. But I'm always trying to make them the hero of the story, right? Like, I'm so grateful, y'all, that I get to do this, right? But I just want to reiterate, it is their miraculous ability to heal.
Yeah, it's getting your body into a place where it can do what it wants to do.
Right.
Because our bodies are amazing, and they're our biggest advocate, and your body will fight for you till the day you fucking die in any way it possibly can to keep you alive.
Yeah, we talked about this on the last episode. I heard this quote, Alex, and I love this. The guy said, your heart, there's no such thing as a heart attack. Your heart would never attack you. Your body loves you. Your body fights for you. It's that you put so much toxicity into it and so much damage to it. It finally fought so hard it couldn't fight anymore.
That's
and
beautiful.
I was like,
Yeah, when you say it like that, then you realize, like, man,
and that's your whole body.
Right. Well, you know what? It kills me when people are like, I've got a bad back. I've got a bad knee. I've got a bad shoulder. It's like, whoa. Why are you telling? Your body is on your side.
yeah.
Like, and the way you talk about it matters. And when you say I've got a bad knee, right? You've just put the ceiling there. That's your future. Your knee is always going to be a problem, right?
Yep.
And also it's against you. Like, it's there to get you. And when it's like, yo, your body is a beautiful thing that's adapting in every way it can to make your life as healthy as possible.
So physical and mental. So we were talking about in the internal family systems, which is a model that came out of The Body Keeps the Score. And in those family systems, there's three characters: the exiles, the managers, and the firefighters. So quick recap: the exile is the emotional, like, I can never win. I'm damaged, all that kind of stuff. The manager is trying to control all the situations. And the firefighter is like, drugs or alcohol. It's just like when that emotion comes up and you don't want to experience it, it just pours whatever drug it can put on it to make that emotion go away, right? Mm-hmm. And all these in the Venn diagram are circles that pull you away from your true self, right? And that's how our body and our brain copes with potential trauma, long-term trauma, childhood trauma. But what's really interesting when you said that, like, I have a bad knee, one of the phrases that I internalized, one of the exile, quote, emotional phrases that I internalized over my 20s and 30s is, I am cursed.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So in recognizing that, and sometimes I actually articulated that emotion for the first time probably 3 years ago. It was always buried, but that was the first time I actually was able to articulate that I had that extremely negative internal narrative. But when you think about that and what you just said, like, I have a bad back, I have a bad knee, I have this, I have that, and that's your ceiling.
Yeah, 100%.
You cement it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, bad the word bad is something you want to be careful throwing around when it's in relationship to your body.
Well, and think about, that term. But if you think about bad used in the context of like, when I think of you are bad, I think of a very childish context. I think of a domineering adult talking to a child, right? Usually adults are like, you're a piece of shit.
Oh,
but if
God.
it's a kid, it's like, you are bad, or quit being bad, right? But to our point of our unable to mature and develop past certain things in our life, it's a very childish thought.
To say your knee is bad.
Yeah.
I never even thought of that before, but like it's like literally you're talking to your knee like it's a kid.
Well, I feel like our whole adult life is just sorting out the things that happened to us during those childhood moments, right? Like I'm 33 and there's just and like I'm like now I'm finally realizing like life is your childhood and then learning all the ways to navigate stuff that you soaked in during those first 7 or 8 years.
But if we look at this in the positive way, right? We have the opportunity to constantly find new ways to enjoy our spiritual, mental, and physical self.
Mm-hmm.
And coming from a place of, trauma or whatever. And me and Jonathan talk about this. It may be you moved at a critical time in life. It may be you were abused and raped. So trauma is trauma, period.
Sure. There's certainly a lot of ways it can come.
Yeah. So it's not like, oh, well, this is worse, so you should feel worse. And that's not really qualified as trauma, right? Trauma is trauma. And, And for me and Jonathan talk about this, like I felt more calm in my life than I ever have because I'm actually able to start articulating how my body has tried to cope.
Yeah, that's huge.
And in therapy, she says like, you don't shame yourself for that. You thank the body. Thank you, manager, for trying to control this situation. Thank you, firefighter, for trying to push down these emotions because for whatever reason. And part of that, thanking the body for doing what it does naturally to cope with these things, you allow yourself permission to actually work through them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What's your paradigm? Is the universe on your side? Is your body on your side? Or are these things against you?
I mean, back to the knee thing real quick. I mean, you say you have a bad knee, but what if, because this is a lot of situations, one leg is slightly shorter and your knee hurts because it's compensating. But if your knee wasn't compensating, your lower back, your disc would slip and you'd be in excruciating pain because your nerves would be out of your freaking spine. So you're sitting here, you're mad at your knee and your knee's thinking, fuck, man, I'm trying to make sure that your disc doesn't slip out of your lower spine, bro.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you just look at the pain where it is
right.
a lot of times.
Well, that's our overall system, right? Like, this part hurts. Let's cut this part out.
Yeah. But, like, the body is amazing. You have to understand what everything it's doing and feeling is it trying to be your advocate. Straight up.
Yeah.
So don't get mad at it.
Wow.
There's a lot of stuff wrapped up about body love and body image and,
Yeah, it happened to me when I was doing yoga. I was doing yoga, and I think I was just doing not happy baby, but the one where you straight up fucking hug yourself on your back. Whatever that pose is called. You pull your knees up.
And I can't think of what that
And then
pose
I
is
was
called.
like, man, I used to not be able to do this. I'm more flexible. I was like, my body feels amazing. And I was like, dude, my body is amazing.
Yeah.
I finally had that realization. This is years ago now where I was like, fuck, man, like this is incredible. What I have, you have this tool, you have this asset, you have this thing that's fights for you every day. And you really want to abuse that?
The intelligence of it is amazing. I think if the three of us can sit here and we each say, I love my body, which I know I feel that way, and I sense that you both do too. That is huge. That is huge. And for everybody listening, my prayer is that you get to a place where you feel that, because it is a beautiful thing.
Because your body loves you.
Exactly. And unfortunately, a lot of people struggle with it. You know what I mean? And my heart goes out to that for a variety of reasons. But if you can confidently know and say, I love my body, it's huge. And I that's something I hope and wish for everybody to be able to feel.
Yeah. Holy crap. I think we're going to have to do a part 2.
Yeah, should we wrap this puppy up?
That sounds good. It's been a pleasure, you guys.
I like
Hell
that.
yeah, absolutely.
You're very busy, but maybe we can do this once a quarter.
Yeah, well, yeah, and as Secret River Sounds continues to grow, I would, of course, like to continue to talk about that.
Well,
Yes.
when this episode actually comes out, you will have grown more because
Actually, I think this will be April.
April, yeah. No.
What month are we in? March?
We're in March.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Can I tell people? I want to tell people about where to find me.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
So my website is secretriversounds.com. And on that website, you're going to see media. You're going to see my public events and offerings. You're going to see opportunities about sound therapy training and all things Secret River. And people can find me there. They can find me on Instagram at secretriversounds.com. I'm coming to a town near you. You need to be part of this movement. We are on a mission to raise people's vibrations and to create a society that is really all about love and upliftment and community and unity.
Man,
Hell yeah.
that's awesome.
Can't argue with that.
And I would say, is there anything we can do? But I know when you need something, you'll ask.
That's coming.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Hell yeah.
Thank you for listening to the FocusCast. Go to youtube.com/thefocuscast and slap that subscribe button. Head to thefocuscast.com to share what you want to hear next. Go forth and be focused as boy.
All right. Find a nice, comfortable seated position or laying down, making sure you're not doing this meditation if you're driving in the car right now. And once you're comfortable closing your eyes, let's take a deep breath in through the nostrils. Sigh it out through the mouth. Just take a moment to connect and listen with these sounds. slowly begin to just come back into the room that you're in. Gradually flutter your eyes open. Take another deep inhale in. And have a beautiful day.